Why? Conversation for this week. I really want to discuss separating art from the artist. Something that I've thought about for a long time, especially in contemporary times in the last couple of years. There's been so many things going on of like celebrities and what have you who have been like outed as sexually abusive or not good stuff, right? Like I feel like either it's obviously it's not happening more now than it used to happen, it's just being exposed more, I feel, than it used to happen. So probably with technologies and other things that are going on. Also, I think our culture is just feeding on it more, and so there's more demand for it as well. There's a lot of reasons. Anyway, so that's what's happening more and more and more, and I feel like I get frustrated when something happens, and then I especially get frustrated because sometimes these are accusations and they're not even factual. This could be a whole other conversation, but like I get frustrated because then sometimes there's action taken immediately where we take that person, let's say it's an actor out of a TV show or a movie, and be like, hey, they're out, that's it, like we can't have that person in there anymore, it's tainted now. That's frustrating. So anyway, all this is going on the past couple years, more so I feel like it's picked up than it was before when I was like, you know, if it was 10 years ago or even 5 or 6 years ago. So I kind of wanted to discuss that. So separating the art and the artist, because I feel that's really important. I feel like if you can separate the art from the artist, then you can still enjoy the content without having to think about the artist and them and their personal life and their actions maybe tainting the content that you wish to consume. I think it's important because I feel like I just think it's silly all the time to be just throwing people out left and right who have really maybe great ideas, intellectual ideas, like healthy ideas, things that would help you on an emotional, mental, or physical basis, and just to throw all that knowledge and wisdom and sharing or content out just because they did a bad thing and we know about it now. I think that's really silly. I feel like everybody has secrets. I feel like maybe that's just me because I have secrets and I do bad things or whatever, but I really feel like people generally, I'm not saying people are generally bad. We're not bad just because we do bad things, but obviously there's some things that cross the line and other things that don't, and that's up to everyone for themselves to decide what crosses your line and what doesn't. But everyone's got things that could be exposed, I feel. So anyway, I'm going to talk about 3 people at least, and that's going to be Michael Jackson, Tim Lambesis, and Louis C.K. Not in a lot of detail. They're just, those are my reference points right now for this type of thing. We could talk about Bill Cosby. We could talk about a lot of people, right? So, and maybe we will. Maybe we'll talk about Bill Cosby too, or other people, other folks. This starts off with Michael Jackson because the reason I wanted to talk about it right now, like I said, it's something that's been in my mind. It just because it keeps happening, right? So it's something that I'm aware of, and that it's just a thing. So I don't know if we should go with Michael Jackson first or Michael Jackson last. Let's go with last. Okay, so yeah, the Michael Jackson thing we'll get into in a bit, but I guess so to recap. So we've got these reference points or these examples. So I mean, like Louis C.K. I think that's probably out of the 3, well, maybe not the most famous, but most contemporary thing. He's still alive. He's not doing much work anymore because of all these things that have happened, and he's admitted, for people who don't know, Louis C.K., the comedian, I really enjoy his comic work, his acting work, his writing, his like, Horace and Pete is just an amazing show that I think he wrote, directed, acted it. Like, it was just super good. It's not a comedy either, but it's very intelligent, and it's just amazing drama that isn't bound by the structures of I guess the contemporary landscape of TV and yeah, I guess TV and movies and things like that. So anyway, he just did it on his own. So I think he's incredibly talented. Like I said, enjoy his work for the most part, a vast majority of it. I think he's an intelligent guy. So he, throughout periods of time, had whipped out his ding dong in front of female peers and coworkers and things without really getting any permission to do that. I don't want to go into all the crazy specifics of like what's right and what's wrong and how wrong it is, but that's kind of the situation that we're dealing with Louis C.K. So some women came forward, things blew up. Like I said, he hasn't really been seen much since then. In the past couple of years, I feel like I haven't heard about new work or anything he's really been doing. It's just been like he was like peaking hard, and then it was just like, not in a bad way, I just mean he was doing a lot of work, he was seen all the time, he was a very household name, and then just like after that, just downhill. So that's the situation there. So I still enjoy the stuff he's put out. I think that a lot of what I think he did a lot of good things, even with like his show, Louis, and just a lot of things that I think for our social environment. He brought a lot of issues up to the forefront. He talked about things. It was open. It was vulnerable. It was smart. It was funny. I can still enjoy that stuff. Why would I not be able to enjoy those things because of the actions he did? We're going to talk about what enjoying something means and consuming it on a personal basis versus supporting an artist too. I'm talking about enjoying the art, because to me, the fact that he did it, like, he's the artist who made the art, so I'm still enjoying the art. If he didn't make the art stands alone by itself. The art is still good. Let's just talk about maybe just jokes. The jokes are still funny. It doesn't matter if he said it or Gilbert Gottfried said it. I mean, maybe a little different if Gilbert Gottfried said it because his voice, but I mean, like, the jokes by themselves, or the whatever premises and punchlines, are all going to be the same, no matter really who says it, if they have the same delivery, etc. So, I just like, that to me is a clear separation of the art and the artist. Objectively, this stuff is still going to be as funny as it was before, as it is now that, like, we found this other stuff out, it was exposed, who cares? Like, I mean, I don't mean to make light of, like, who cares, it was nothing big deal. I just mean, like, in the terms of, like, can we still enjoy the art? I don't understand why we can't. So, again, we'll get into a separate thing soon about supporting an artist. Then we got something a little bit bigger. Tim Lambesis, who is the vocalist, lyricist, frontman, whatever, As I Lay Dying, metalcore band that was, again, like, super peak, top tier, like, top shelf metal band for a number of years. Let's just say the better part of a decade they were on top, in that upper echelon. So I don't know how many years it's been now. Again, I don't like go and write a whole bunch of notes and do detailed research. I just kind of know what I know and then go from there. Maybe, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, might be a year or two longer than that, but I don't think so. So I guess some background for him. As I Lay Dying was a Christian band. I guess I should have done Christian band. For a while, they were labeled that way. They didn't like being labeled that way. Some of them, especially Tim, kind of was reconsidering his faith for a while. He got really into fitness and was just starting to get swole, just super jacked. So he did a lot of like faith-based, or maybe they're not faith-based. He just did a lot of like good things for a while, that maybe to deal with like charities and like adopting children from like third world countries and stuff like that. Anyway, so he was married, and basically they were going through a divorce. They were going to get a divorce. He was incredibly unhappy with that, didn't want a divorce, didn't want his kids taken away in this divorce. During this time, he'd been abusing drugs, like, that would coincide with his fitness journey. So I don't remember exactly the type of drugs, or the barbiturates, or whatever it is that coincides. Some type of steroid that went along with his fitness. And Yeah, so he'd been abusing drugs for those purposes during this time, and there's certain side effects that go along with that. He skipped to the point. He hires a hitman to kill his wife because he doesn't want this divorce to go through or whatever, which doesn't make sense because now she's dead. But like, he wants the kids, that would be the thing, and whatever else. So he hires a hitman who ends up being an undercover cop. Cool. So not good for him. He goes to jail, whatever. His defense, I guess I started talking about that before, and I'm talking about what he did. His defense was that, I was like on drugs, I was pretty messed up, I was not in my right mind, I would never want to do this, blah, 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 blah. Believe it or don't believe it, that's not what we're discussing here, but that's what he went to jail for, whatever it is, conspiracy to commit murder, or I don't remember the exact charge, but he was he wanted to hire someone to kill his wife. It's pretty heavy. It's pretty big stuff. It didn't happen, but it doesn't mean it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't an undercover cop, if all this stuff. You don't know, maybe he would have called it off before that. We have no idea. We just don't know. So, but that was the thing. So, I enjoyed As I Lay Dying's music thoroughly. I still enjoy the music. It's really that simple. Like, the music in itself is one thing. So yeah, the music by itself, there's a lot of uplifting messages and finding personal strength and power. There's a lot of pain and sorrow and a lot of other things in their music and art. But I don't feel like his words mean any less. I feel like if I thought those words were sincere then, and I still do now, I feel like, and it's not because like, oh, I believe him, I really believe he's messed up on the drugs and whatever. It's just that I can separate that from that, and also maybe it's because I also don't have a firm belief one way or the other whether he did this thing or didn't do this thing, or I mean, what he did it, but I mean, whether he was really gonna follow through with it, or consciously aware, like that he wasn't influenced by drugs, or I don't know. But when it comes to listening to old As I Lay Dying music or new As I Lay Dying music, it doesn't matter. This is going to get into a whole complex thing, because now he's been out of jail, he's doing like non-profit work and volunteering his time to speak and work with like domestic abuse programs and things of that nature. He's really trying to present himself, we'll say, as to being a changed man and righting his wrongs, or maybe not being a changed man, but he like quit doing steroids and drugs and needs to get his mind right. During this time also, I brought up the fact they were this Christian band because like he had his faith kind of had changed there, and especially I believe in jail, things shifted even more and whatever. But he's still about presenting positivity in this way. And so the thing is that then he reunites with the band that they had moved on. They created another band basically with a different vocalist, blah, 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 blah. They said they would never work with Tim again. It doesn't matter. They really were hurt by his actions, couldn't trust him, obviously, all these things. And then there was like, I don't remember how long ago now, 4 or 5, 6 months ago, they'd announced, they made this video and everything saying like, look, this is what happened, we still don't know what's going on, but we made this new song, we're going to be working together, we don't know exactly where it's going to go, but these are our feelings about what happened with Tim and blah blah blah. So they're working together again. I would buy a new album from them. So this is where it's going to get hairy a little bit. If they put out a new album, I would financially support them, either with album sales, merch, or what have you, whatever I feel like at the time. That wouldn't bother me to do, okay? However, now we shift into, let's talk about the two Phils. Phil Labonte from All That Remains, and Phil Anselmo from Pantera, Superjoint Ritual, however many other projects he's got going on, he's done before. So, a really quick thing, Pantera, really often Confederate flag stuff, merch, what have you. There's some questionable lyrics on some Pantera records that might hint at racist overtones, maybe not. Phil Again, both of these Phils are the frontmen, vocalists, lyricists, primarily of the bands they fronted. And Phil Anselmo for a long time there's been incidents, and like a year or two ago he was joking and he like did like a Heil like Hitler thing at some event on stage, and then was saying something about white wine and like white is right and white power, and talking about, oh no, I was talking about the wine and whatever, and it was, oh, is this inside joke that got all, it was just a joke, man. But he's, yeah, for a while he's done some things and whatever. So yeah, Phil Anselmo, I enjoy some of Pantera's music that I enjoy. I've never purchased any, and at first it was, I mean, if you go back and listen or watch the other vlog about my top 10 albums that changed my life, I talk about something there, Vulgar Display of Power, and why I just never bought any albums at first. And then later on, learning more about Phil, I wouldn't want to financially support him in any way, even though, again, maybe buying a record, who knows if he still gets royalties from that because of the label and the exchange and the contracts. I have no idea, right? But I just wouldn't really want to support Phil in any way. I think he's kind of a piece of garbage. He's a person I'm very sure about. Like, I don't believe, oh, it was the inside joke about white wine. Like, he's got a history. His apologies are weak and crappy. So for him, I don't really would ever want to support him. Phil Labonte, All That Remains, first couple albums I really dug. I mean, specifically, what was it, Overcome and Fall of Ideals, I think. Good stuff. Again, this is a little bit different because the music ended up getting to a place where I really didn't like it. But also, he said some very, very, he's a, what do you call him, like a libertine, I guess. He's talked about those values politically. He's very, like, super pro-gun. He likes to throw around F-words, not the four-letter ones, but homophobic slurs, and playing it off as something else and be like, oh, whatever, man, they're just words and stuff. I guess this goes back to Louis C.K. too, because it's the one thing I'm not a fan of. He talks about it in stand-up, and I can kind of ignore those parts and then move on to other parts, because some things are indicative of someone's character. Even though it's being expressed in art, I can ignore that part of the art and enjoy the rest of the art, which is another thing. You know, it's like saying Red Hot Chili Peppers, like, I love the vast majority of their work. You know, on some albums, like on Californication, or By the Way, there's like, for me, one song on each album that's kind of a stinker, but that doesn't affect the whole album. It's just like one song. I'd ignore that song. I still think they're a great band, and I enjoy the rest of the album. So anyway, but Phil Labonte, so he said all these things. Even if the music was good, at this point, I wouldn't purchase the music. Before the album started going real downhill, I already made that decision because of some things he had said and things that were in interviews, and he was trying to like defend his positions, and I just don't like him as a person, so I was downloading his albums. I hardly ever download music anymore, like ever. It's really rare. But in a case like that, I was like, I'll check out this album, I'll delete all the songs I don't like. I'm not buying it. Just not doing it. I don't want to, even in my own mind, again, support him in any way with, you know, with scans or like numbers basically or anything. I just don't want to do it. So yeah, that's Phil Labonte. And then we move on to Michael Jackson, another music thing, but this is a more complex issue, and this is where the whole thing started for me. Was on the radio, well, not the whole thing, but I mean why I wanted to make this video now. So, move on to Michael Jackson. The other day, I'd seen some articles, and they were like, certain radio stations banning Michael Jackson's music. What? Why? Why? Like, this is dumb, people. Why? Okay, so it's complex because, one, Michael Jackson is dead. Okay? So negative press, negative whatever, that kind of stuff doesn't affect him financially or personally because he's dead, which is, to me, sad. But anyway, so Michael Jackson's dead. When he was alive, there were accusations, there was some type of investigation in a way about him sexually abusing children. Okay, really serious. I would say in some ways it's equal or more serious than Tim Lambesis, you know, committing conspiracy to murder his wife or whatever, conspiracy to commit murder. Like those are big allegations. That's a really big deal. It's nothing small. So he was never found guilty of that at all for whatever reason. Again, this is territory where it's complex. I'm not like, I don't believe one way or the other. Michael Jackson's music to me is really important. In some ways, it is the first music that I felt, like where I felt emotions, where I felt like music brought something out of me. It was at a very young age. There's complex emotions I didn't even understand, but I felt them through his music. So it's not because I really like his music. That's like really liking his music and really liking him are two different things too. Sometimes an artist, in your mind, you'd be a really stand-up person. Sometimes they're a piece of garbage and they make amazing art, right? But to me, like, I didn't ever believe one way or the other whether he did these things. I just kind of put it out of my mind and enjoyed the music for what it was, in that context of the words and the melodies and the beats. So, like, I don't think one thing over the other. But recently there's been like a new documentary that's coming out that talks about like about what happened at Neverland Ranch and like all these things, and like saying that he did this and did that and it's for sure and here's the proof, and that he sexually abused children. That's a big deal. He was never found guilty of it. So this thing coming out now, like whatever, they're doing it, it's fine, I guess. Some people, I remember Bill Burr was actually talking about this the other day, like, leave him alone, he's dead, like, who cares? And I'm like, well, I believe that, you know, if you investigate things after the fact, or if you learn things about people that die, like, that's silly to be like, well, he's dead, so just leave it alone. Like, I think that's silly. But anyway, I don't, like, this thing coming out, and now people are actually, there's certain radio stations that want to ban his music, other stations obviously don't want to. There's this discussion. Why are we having a discussion about this? The music in itself, I don't think we're gonna find that, oh snap, now that we think, or we have more proof, or even if he did abuse children, that would be a whole other thing, and I think a lot of people would pull the music, like Cosby stuff. They would just pull it, like the comedy, or wouldn't listen to it anymore, or whatever. They wouldn't want to support it, even though it doesn't support him anymore because he's not alive. I just feel like, I don't think that knowing this happened, or thinking it happened, is going to change the way we read those lyrics and consume the product or the content. I don't think it's like, wait a second, now I understand this song is really about touching kids. Like, I really don't think that's a thing with his music. So why can't we just enjoy the music for the music and just have it on the radio and listen to it in that context? Like, this is the time, and especially because the trigger warning video I did, like, because I'm not a fan of them, which you can go find that video, like, I generally feel like, and I'm not loyal to any one party or any one way of thinking other than being open-minded and like trying to analyze and be a critical thinker. Like, I definitely lean more liberal when it comes to most things, but I really feel that contemporary times in the US and Canada and some other places, like in the UK, but there's like going way too far leaning that way, where it's like, well, why do we care about this stuff? Like, why can't we listen to the music? Because listening to the music does not support like pedophilia. No, I'm listening to a song about, you know, keep it in the closet or something. Like, I'm listening to Thriller, like, you know, like, I'm listening to songs that have nothing to do with that. So I'm not supporting that. Like, let's take a step back to R. Kelly, okay? And it's not even a step back. It's kind of like even more recent. Well, it's right now we're talking about R. Kelly a lot. He blew up on TV. There's all even more crazy allegations and evidence apparently of videos and him with underage young women and all this craziness going on. And then he flips out about it. But the thing is, like, can I still enjoy I Believe I Can Fly? Yes, I don't really like R. Kelly, okay, but I Believe I Can Fly, we could say it's a beautiful song. I don't think that has anything to do with, you know, having like sex slaves and all this other stuff, peeing on people. Like, like I don't really, you know, like that song objectively by itself. What, like, is anyone gonna play R. Kelly on the radio anymore now? Probably not. Like, there needs to be a stand somewhere, I feel, and it needs to come from the end where it's not gonna come from, and it's gonna have to come from Hollywood and like radio stations and those type of the media outlets, because the same thing that happens with shows and movies. Like, oh, Kevin Spacey got accused of this, so now he's not doing the movie anymore. Last minute, screw it, get somebody else, because you know, like, like some people are gonna say, I don't want to support that person, and I understand that part of it. I do. So the thing is that Michael Jackson, what, people are gonna stop listening to a radio station because they're playing Michael Jackson? And it's like, oh, every time you hear Michael Jackson, you think of pedophilia? This is where I think it's important to separate, especially if you enjoyed the content before you knew anything. Because that new information a lot of times doesn't change the content because they're so separate. They are so separate. I can listen to the music, I can enjoy the art for what it is, and separate it from the artist. It's like seeing a Picasso piece and be like, you know, Picasso was really abusive to like his partners, and or maybe the muse that he used for this thing, he was abusive to her or something. I'm like, okay, but this by itself, I can enjoy that. I don't even like Picasso, it's just an example. I just feel like it's a skill, and I don't think I ever had to learn that skill, but I think you can critically think and enhance that skill if it's not innately part of your nature to just be able to separate those things. Some things are very near and dear to people, and like, again, like I've separated when I want to financially support someone. I still listen to All That Remains sometimes, because his views and things he said are not being represented in those tracks that I enjoy listening to. Again, they're tracks about like finding inner strength and like prevailing against prevailing against odds and things, and positivity, and so you know, it has nothing to do with him being a homophobic idiot. Like, that's not what the song is about. I don't want to financially support him with in any way, or the band, because the band was obviously supportive of him. I get that everyone's got a different line. I just think when we just throw out, again, this is the whole thing, again, like throw out the baby with the bathwater, like in the Momo video. Like, you can't just throw out YouTube because there's a thing on YouTube. Like, do some critical thinking. Like, you can't just, okay, let's stop listening to Michael Jackson altogether because some stuff came out that may or may not be true, or even if it is true, like, man, like, you can still listen to the music, and like, you should be able to separate the art from the artist. Everyone you meet has probably have a dark history, or is about to do something dark, like some messed up stuff, and you may never know about it, and you just trust those people because you don't know about it yet. And that's not the reality, folks. Like, stuff is gonna happen. People do bad things. People do messed up stuff. Some people maybe go through their life without doing anything really heinous. Maybe nothing really that bad. I believe that too. There's really bad people that are pretty messed up. Really, really bad people. And then I feel like, you know, there's people that are generally good people that don't do a lot of bad things. That's legit. For sure. But I think people have everyone has something they're ashamed of. Everyone has something that they don't want everyone to know about. You know, that's the way it is. So the person sitting next to you that you admire, your partner, your parents, like, this is why objective and critical thinking is so important. Like, you don't go around disrespecting your elders because they're older than you. That doesn't make any sense. Do you respect a person because they're respectable? And this is a whole separate thing, because we're talking about, do you enjoy the art because of the art? Even if the individual that created it isn't respectable, can you enjoy the product of what they've created? Yes, you can. There's nothing wrong with you because you choose to enjoy that thing still. And people that are like, oh, well, you're supporting racism by listening to Pantera. Like, I'm not supporting racism, I'm enjoying this song for what it is. And usually, I mean, and the song I enjoy is not a racist song that promotes racism. Like, I would very pick and choose the content that I want to listen to and support and what have you. So like, no, I don't want to support someone financially. I don't want to give them any positive feelings if I feel like they are a person that I like, you know, that doesn't deserve my respect, that I don't want to give them anything positive out of me enjoying their music. I'm not going to communicate that I enjoy their music to them and be like, yo, Phil, doesn't matter which one, like, you really, like, did this to me and taught me this and taught me that. Like, if both those Phils are garbage to me, I'm not going to go and do that, even though I'm like, man, that song really helped me through this time, maybe. That's what the song did. That's just the nature. That's what I have to deal with. Like, we're all complex individuals, and we have complex choices to make, and we have things to think about, and we got to work through and navigate those things. And I feel like, man, if you're just like so simple that you just like, oh, Michael Jackson off the table now, Louis C.K. can't enjoy that, you know, like As I Lay Dying out the window. Those are choices you make, whatever, right? Everyone makes a judgment, but like, I feel like to make such black and white decisions and simple decisions, I don't think that's a good thing. I really don't. I think that processing the information and practicing critical thinking is valuable. So, you know, some people want to simplify their wardrobe and be like, I wear the same thing every day, it simplifies my life, blah, blah, blah. That's a whole different thing. Sure, simplify your life. This is potentially a way to simplify your life, but not in a good way, because you're not pushing yourself to actually be an intelligent individual. I don't know where else to go with that. So, I mean, just, again, like, these are things you should think about, and not just, for one, not just believe something because someone said something. Two, if it is proven, or if you do believe it, can you separate that thing about the person from what they've created, especially if it's something you used to enjoy? Why can't you still enjoy it? Like, it's not cool, man. Not cool. We'll see you on another time. I'm all riled up now.